talk to me, I could let you know. What's the sun as it falls and hides? Does the fire still burn? Does it burn inside? Let me know, do the feelings go? 'Cause I won't step back, no, I won't let go.
It started in your hand, the life we began.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the official Daily Grind Fantasy Week 15 NFL live stream. Cannot wait to break it down. Good morning to everybody and happy almost holidays and Merry almost Christmas to everybody. We are 1 week away from Christmas and also a couple days away from NBA. So I just want to talk to you guys about that. NBA live streams are where it's at. If you guys haven't already, subscribe to our channel, please do so. NBA is the best time of the year for, daily fantasy sports and especially our company because that is the sport that's all started with. Since then, we've grown to NFL, we've grown to MMA. But if you guys haven't followed us for NBA content, feel free to do so now because it is an absolute blast. We go live before lock every single day. We provide a lot of free and paid content for that sport as well. So let's go ahead and dive right into the slate, guys. We have TJ and Kevin with us yet again. So good morning, guys.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So we're going to start at the quarterback position. Last night we were updating ownerships. I updated on Patreon ownerships, and Kyler Murray was actually at the top at 13%, but it's now shifted. I thought that was a little crazy because we have Lamar Jackson playing my Jacksonville Jaguars at 13% at only 7.5K. Actually, not the most expensive on the slate. I guess I'll start with you, TJ. Lamar Jackson, 13%. I believe we talked about this on our final looks video. How do you think about Lamar Jackson today?
Yeah, no, I like Lamar in this spot, obviously, against Jacksonville, who has struggled defensively and throughout the season. Obviously, Matt, as you know, 31st in DVOA against opposing quarterbacks. And the one thing that Lamar's been doing that we've been seeing a little bit as of late is using his legs and getting out of the pocket. He's only had 17 pass attempts in his last 2 games. He's really been able to get it done on the ground. And we saw that against Cleveland. He was able to flush Cleveland away late, and he looked really good doing so. That is a bathroom joke or pun. But yeah, no, Lamar at 7,500. It makes sense to me. 30.5 team total over under, which is the second highest on the slate. 13-point favorites is the only thing that I'm a little concerned about. But even still, I mean, if they're going to be running the ball late, Lamar could have some QB sneaks in there. So I definitely like him at 7,500.
Yeah, even though it's a 13-point favorite, you got to think that if the Ravens do score that many points, right now they're projected at 30.5, it's going to be all through Lamar Jackson. So, it's a pretty safe floor in my opinion. Yeah, not that high of a ceiling unless Jacksonville doesn't keep it close, which they've proved throughout the season to be able to do, even against better teams like the every team they played. So, except for I guess the Steelers is the only exception there. But Kevin, Lamar Jackson at 13% ownership, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's just the pricing makes sense for him. And, we've talked about it. I love the matchup. I think it does. Yeah,
7.5K, again, like I was saying earlier, it actually isn't the most expensive on the slate. Patrick Mahomes is next on the list against New Orleans. Not that high-paced of a game, or it didn't start out that way, but since Drew Brees is now starting, the over-under has actually went up about 3 points. I believe it was at 49.5. 7.9K Patrick Mahomes. TJ, are you paying up, or are you sticking with Lamar Jackson in that cash spot, or cash lineup?
In terms of cash, I don't think I would go to Mahomes, but in tournaments, yeah, 100%. I think this game could definitely shoot out. It's one of the higher over-unders that we have on the slate. Like Matt just alluded to, we do have Drew Brees making his return, but no Michael Thomas. So the offense is still hindered a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, a 3-point spread where Kansas City's playing on the road.
I'm actually surprised at that.
Yeah. In the dome as well too. So I think this could be a really big day for Mahomes. Again, the Saints secondary is very good. They rank 4th in DVOA against the pass. So, but Patrick Mahomes is matchup proof in my eyes. So yeah, I definitely like him at 7,900, but more of a tournament play for me.
Kevin, Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes? Who are you paying up for?
Same boat as TJ. I think in tournaments it makes a lot more sense, but the Saints kill the clock. That's what they do. Even with Drew Brees back, I mean, I think they're still going to be running it a lot more. I mean, I think a lot of those carries that go to Taysom are going to go to Kamara now,
right?
And they're still going to kill the clock and check downs and try to let their defense do a lot of the work.
Right, we get to see full strength Kamara this game. Not the 45 to 55% snaps that we're used to seeing with Taysom Hill. Now we get to see him at full strength, and hopefully he's set up for some good success, at least for cash games, because he's also high end. But we won't go that far ahead. We're going to talk about Kyler Murray next, who was the chalkiest option on the slate at 9.8% now, third highest, $7,000. I guess that's the salary saver on this slate. Are you guys going down the Kyler Murray? Or are you even thinking about it in the cash lineups? TJ?
Yeah, I've been considering it. I think it's a pretty good matchup against Philly. The pricing is pretty good too at 7K. And the one thing that I liked with Kyler's matchup last week against the Giants is his ability to actually run the ball, which is something we hadn't seen over the last 3 weeks. He only had 15 rushing attempts before the Giants game where he had 13. So kind of showing me that he's a little bit more healthy. Been able to get out of the pocket and make plays on his, with his legs is something that's been huge for him in DFS. So I do like him at 7K. I think it's a really good price. Makes sense to me why his ownership is, in that top 3 with Mahomes and Lamar. So yeah, if I can't get to Lamar, I wouldn't mind going to Kyler. Pairing him with somebody, I'm not too sure about that, but having him, naked in a cash game is something that I could see myself doing.
Yeah, and that's something I preach to Patreon members, at least in our Discord chat. Lamar Jackson, if you play him naked, you don't have to worry about it. You definitely do not have to stack him. Sure, if you want to do it in GPPs, even smaller GPPs, hope the Jacksonville Jaguars keep it close. He will have to air it out at some point, right? So you can do it in GPPs. I don't recommend it in cash. There's really no high correlation players. Marquise Brown was the number one option to start the season, but that's kind of, it hasn't really worked out as we've seen the season progress. Mark Andrews probably the best option, I would say, if you're going to be pairing him with anybody. But yeah, let's go ahead and switch over to GPP options. I'll start the segment because I don't want you guys to take them. Ryan Tannehill, first on the list here. I love Ryan Tannehill in this matchup. This is the highest over-under, which is actually pretty surprising against the Detroit Lions. 54 over under. So I really do like this over under. It's risen since it started. Right now they're a 9-point favorite. Yes, Detroit could keep it close, which makes Ryan Tannehill's ceiling the limit, or the sky's the limit. Sorry, for him and fantasy point scoring. Ryan Tannehill's gotten back on track, and I do like him at low ownership right now. I believe it hasn't updated. 5.7% owned, which is just really low in that high over under. I'm actually surprised we aren't seeing him at a higher percent ownership. I think it's just strictly because of his price tag. That awkward price tag is keeping that ownership low. Love the matchup, love the potential here. High over under. That's my favorite GPP quarterback. TJ, if you had to pick one, where are you going?
I just wanted to piggyback on the Tannehill play. I really like it. I think a lot of the ownership is going to Derrick Henry this weekend, so I think that's why we're seeing Tannehill as a lower owned quarterback. But if you want to get different in tournaments and you want to do a fade on a guy like Derrick Henry, you could easily do like a Tannehill, AJ Brown stack at low ownership. 30th in DVOA are the Lions against the pass. So I definitely like that matchup at 6,700.
Yeah.
A lot of people looking at a guy like Jalen Hurts at 5,900. Pretty tough matchup against the Cardinals. I don't know if I'll get there. Matt, I think there's a lot of good GPP plays. Like we got Jared Goff at 6,300, currently showing sub 7% ownership going up against the Jets. And I understand the spread. It's 17 points, but they have to get that lead somehow. And it makes sense to go through Jared Goff and those wide receivers. So I really like Goff at that low ownership. I like Brady at 6,600 going up against the Falcons. I think that's a pretty good matchup. I think the Falcons are more susceptible through the air than they are through the ground. I think they actually have a pretty good run defense opposed to a passing defense. And then a guy like Phillip Rivers at 5,900 going up against the Texans. Texans ranked 26th in DVOA against the pass. So those are a couple guys that I'm really looking at in terms of tournaments. There's a couple others, but we'll save those for the Patreon guys. Yeah,
I definitely like those options as well. And I said this again in the Patreon chat. There's so many GPP quarterbacks because the chalk build is going to be paying up at quarterback. Obviously, the top three price quarterbacks are here at the top of the ownership board, but also paying down at wide receiver. And there's just nobody's paying up for wide receiver this week or running back. There's only one running back everybody's gonna be paying up for, which is Kamara. So if you want to get contrarian, start by paying down in the quarterback spot. And I actually don't hate that this week because Patrick Mahomes, yes, it's Patrick Mahomes, but it's not the best matchup. Kyler Murray, not the best matchup against Philly's defense. Lamar Jackson, yes, that's probably the only really good matchup, but again, they could stay on the ground. They could give it to the running backs all game. You don't know how this game script's gonna look. So those top three options could bust. So Kevin, if you had to give your GPP quarterback, where are you going?
I mean, to be honest, as I look this over, I mean, the thing that makes more sense to me every time I look at it is Jalen Hurts. I mean, we don't know what he can do yet.
That's a good one.
He still has a potential at 5,900. You're not going to get a running quarterback at 5,900 ever. You know what I mean? And this is an opportunity where it seems like you can. He scored 24 points last game. It's absolutely
against a very good defense. Right.
Yeah, very good defense. And now he faces the Cardinals, who are allowing the are 24th in Draftkings scoring against opposing quarterbacks. So I definitely think it's a favorable matchup. This has shootout potential, and 5,900 is just ridiculously cheap for a guy who just ran the ball how many times? 18 times?
Yeah.
Crazy.
If they're going to utilize him like that, that's going to be a cash lock going forward, regardless of his price. I mean, if it's not getting as high as somebody like Patrick Mahomes, you can count on Jalen Hurts being chalk going forward. But again, we're not going to overreact. We have to see him play against some other teams here. We'll see a little bit more of a sample size here against the Cardinals. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about any of the content that we're covering, feel free to ask it in the chat below in the YouTube comment section. Looks like you guys are pretty quiet as of now, which means we're doing our job. We will get to all the questions at the very end of the live stream, so stay tight, ask those questions, and we will get to them. Let's go ahead and move on to the running back position here. At the very top, we have Alvin Kamara at 36.1%. Pretty straightforward. I think in double ups he's going to be, plus 70+%, 80+%. I really don't. Yeah. I really don't get that price tag 7,400. That hasn't adjusted, obviously, with Drew Brees being there, being the new starting quarterback. He's a different animal. Kevin, do you believe in Kamara this week at $7,400 and being chalk in a cash lineup?
I do.
Yeah.
I love Kamara so much. I've been taking him week to week, even when he's set. Before when he was playing with Taste. He was 8,200. I liked him when he was not. I'll always like Kamara. I mean, he's still, I think, technically the highest scoring running back right now in fantasy, and I definitely like him a lot more with Drew Brees because, like I said, I think a lot of those running opportunities are just going to shift right back to him. Especially Brees off an injury, they don't want to probably allow him to get hit or too much time in the pocket. So I definitely think Kamara makes sense.
Yeah, I think Kamara is by far the chalkiest option on the slate, 36.1%. The next highest owned is going to be Derrick Henry at 22.7%. Based on what he did last game, I can see him being chalk this week. And again, in a really good matchup, we talked about this before. We think that they're going to rely more on Derrick Henry. I'm going to pitch this question to you, TJ. Kamara or Derrick Henry or both for a cash lineup today?
So for cash, I'd love to get both. Piggybacking off of what Kevin said with Kamara and you, Matt, it's obvious that his pricing is for Taysom Hill being the starting quarterback and not Drew Brees. In 4 games with Taysom Hill as the starting quarterback, Kamara averaged 14.2 DraftKings points with 9, and with Brees at quarterback in 9 games, he averaged 27.4 DraftKings points. So almost double the amount of DraftKings points with Drew Brees. So we got no Taysom Hill. We have no Taysom Hill. We have no Michael Thomas now. So you could just see an absolute crazy amount of dump offs to Alvin Kamara against these Chiefs. And the Chiefs do not have a good run defense. They rank 30th in DVOA against the run. So I expect a really big game from Alvin Kamara, especially where they could be trailing against the Chiefs at home. And then Derrick Henry going up against Detroit. Another really chalky option. I would love to get to him at 9,500 in cash if I can. Detroit ranks 26th in DVOA against the run. So I'm looking at this from both sides. I'm definitely going to be playing Derrick Henry in cash. And then in tournaments, I'll be playing Tannehill in an AJ Brown stack. Tennessee is definitely a team I want to be targeting. Yeah, I think Detroit is susceptible through the air and on the ground. If Tennessee can get a lead, we'll see a very heavy dose of Derrick Henry coming down the stretch. And if they're playing from behind somehow, Derrick Henry could, disappear, I guess you could say, because he's not really a pass-catching running back. So that's where we could see a heavy dose of Tannehill and AJ Brown. So definitely playing both sides of the ball here, running and passing. But I do really like Derrick Henry in cash. If I can get Henry and Kamara, that's where I want to go.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, Kevin. If you're trying to make a cash line, if you're starting with Kamara, but you're also trying to get Derrick Henry in there, or where are you going?
I think I've been pretty vocal about. I mean, I love Derrick Henry. I love him, but I still like him more as a GPP option. He's too hit or miss for me. I'm going to go down to Dalvin Cook still, even at his ownership. I mean, it's not that much off in ownership. I know it's the second running back and the 5th right now, but we're talking about 3% ownership right now as it stands. So I definitely like Dalvin Cook more still, just for his pass catching ability and floor.
We can move on to some GPP options. So yeah, you're creeping in some Patreon territory. Anybody but Kamara in your build is going to differentiate yourself because again, Kamara's taking up he's going over a third percent of GPPs. So everybody thinks very highly of Kamara. Let's say he goes out there and doesn't score his 20+ points that we're used to seeing with Drew Brees. Derrick Henry has another ceiling game. Dalvin Cook has another pretty good game. You're already looking at beating a third of the field right there. So if you're paying up for Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook, so great option there. For GPPs, where are you looking, Kevin, besides Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook? Are you looking at any more of these running backs, or are you paying up at the running back position?
I mean, I still might pay up, but I mean, I'm looking at like Jonathan Taylor. He's heating up. That entire offense is heating up. Super favorable matchup. He's getting crazy amounts of carries. I mean, Houston is the last ranked defense in terms of opposing DraftKings scoring against the run, and he is getting the opportunities. We're finally seeing him take that lead back role. He's still getting a little little action in the passing game, not as much as I want to see, but healthy amount every single game. And he got crazy legs last week. He got 20 for 150. I mean, every week it seems to be like he's heating up, and it seems like they found their lead back finally.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. TJ, where are you looking for GPP running backs? Are you paying up as well?
Yeah, I mean, I could see myself going off of Henry in tournaments and going to a guy like Dalvin Cook if he's going to have lower ownership. It's obviously a tougher matchup, but we know how important Dalvin Cook is to that offense and how many touches he has throughout the game. So I do like paying up, obviously for Henry, obviously for Cook. I think if you're playing tournaments, if you want to try and fade Kamara, I think that would be my play. It is obviously a tough fade just because of the matchup and the volume that he should see today. But yeah, Matt, I'm looking at 6,900. I'm looking at Miles Sanders, and it is a pretty tough matchup against that front seven in the Cardinals. But with Jalen Hurts, we saw Miles Sanders have arguably his best game of the season, 14 carries for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. I feel like, that front seven of the Saints having to hone in on a guy like Jalen Hurts really open up some holes for Miles Sanders that Carson Wentz obviously wasn't able to open up for him. So at 6,900, the ownership that he's showing, I think we have him pegged at 4-ish%. Definitely like him as a tournament play. And another guy I'm looking at, where do we have Cam? Okay, we have Cam Akers pretty chalky, so I won't really talk about that. Yeah. I really like Cam Akers. I feel like he's obviously taken over the lead role for those LA Rams over Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. That's been pretty evident over the last 2 games where he's had 50 total rushing attempts, which is just absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins, Kenyon Drake, 2 guys that I like that are pretty cheap at 5,900 and 5,500. We saw the Baltimore offense against the Browns, and it was just a heavy dose of running. I would expect an uptick of carries for J.K. Dobbins against the Jacksonville if they do get a lead. He's seen 10 plus in his last 3 games. He's been pretty productive when he has gotten the ball. Obviously they have him, Lamar, and Gus Edwards, which is certainly frustrating from a DFS standpoint because all those guys get running attempts. But I do like Dobbins at 5.9K at his ownership. And then, like I said, Kenyon Drake showing pretty low ownership as well. We have him pegged at 14%. So I guess a little bit high. Outtouched. Outtouched. Thank you. Yep. Chase Edmonds. 23-7 in terms of running attempts against the Giants. So I do like Kenyon Drake in the way they've been utilizing him as of late. So some cheaper plays that I really do like. We didn't actually talk about Leonard Fournette. Nat, do you have any interest in him at 4,500?
I do. I definitely do because, again, we're looking at, paying up or down this week because there's a lot of COVID issues. There's a lot of, injuries coming back like Drew Brees. Leonard Fournette is benefiting from the COVID news of Ronald Jones here. So at $4,500, they haven't adjusted his price tag based on, what he can do in that offense. It's more about the offense, not about Leonard Fournette. The offense is booming. $4,500 is a great salary saver. On our leverage sheet, he's actually not that bad of a play. He's a little bit of a sharper play because I guess people are off of him because of the uncertainty of, I guess, that offense in general. We never know what they're going to do. It's definitely, throwing me back to some Patriots offensive flashbacks. We don't know what the offense is going to do once the game actually starts. But Fournette at $4,500, he only has to get to 9 points. So if he is the bell cow back there today and gets a touchdown, that's already meaning the price tag and a lot more. So definitely like the opportunity there, $4,500. One more guy I want to talk about before we move on to the wide receiver position here is David Montgomery at $7,000. Nobody's looking at him. Nobody's talking about him. He's only $400 off of Kamara. We know that Kamara is obviously a better player and is in just as good of a spot. But if you look at Montgomery's previous 3 games, lights out. I mean, 27 points plus in his previous 3 games and has been on a tear and a decent matchup, higher pace game against the Minnesota Vikings. So 46.5 over under. I'm not going to turn away from that. I think that's a very awkward price tag and should keep his ownership low. Let's go ahead and move on to the wide receiver position. Play the Saints or not is the question at the wide receiver position because we know that Michael Thomas is out. So next in line is going to be Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders at $4,200. I'll go ahead and throw Traquan Smith in there as well. $3,200 at 13.7%. You can pretty much plug and play these guys in double ups and then pay up at wherever you want, essentially. I'll go ahead and start out with you, TJ. Emmanuel Sanders at 20.1% and Traquan Smith. Again, I'm going to include them both because you can pick one or the other. I feel like they're both dart throws at that price tag, and right. They're just so darn cheap. Do you believe in the chalk there?
Yeah, I do. With no Michael Thomas, I mean, it's pretty hard not to in this game against Kansas City. I mean, Drew Brees is going to have to not necessarily air it out because that's not something he's been doing this year, but maybe some quick check downs to guys like Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith. They're just way too cheap with the number 1 target being out. I do expect a lot of dump offs to Alvin Kamara, but also a lot of quick slants to Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan. If I can, obviously, I'd rather go to Emmanuel Sanders than Traquan Smith. If I'm picking between one, I would rather go to Emmanuel. He had some pretty good games with Michael Thomas out. He had back-to-back games where he had 93 yards and 122 yards. So yeah, he was pretty productive with MT off the field. So, if I am picking one, I'm going to Emmanuel, but if I can get both of them in cash, I definitely don't hate it.
No, yeah, salary saving
Just far
galore
too
for
cheap.
that. I mean, you combine their price tags. I'm gonna do quick math, guys. I promise you, I can do it. $7,400 and price tags, and that's lower than DeAndre Hopkins by himself. So just goes to show you can get a lot of targets at that price tag. Kevin, you paying down for these guys in cash?
Yeah, I mean, it's just too cheap for Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, he did pretty good last week, and now he's got if you look at him in the beginning of the year where he had a solid, obviously, quarterback who throws, and Drew Brees, granted, Michael Thomas wasn't there as well, so you can kind of get a pretty good idea of what you're getting. And at 4,200, it's the cheapest we've seen him all year, so it almost makes no sense at all. I mean, tough matchup. Kansas City Chiefs are actually sneaky good against opposing wide receivers. They're actually allowing the second least amount of points to opposing wide receivers, but that's still somewhere I want to put my money, just especially where there's a lot of good pay up options. It's a good place to pay down.
Yeah, and this could be bad chalk potentially. It's you talk about these guys. I mean, they're going to be strictly boom or bust. I mean, they could bust easily. So if you guys want to get contrarian, just fade the wide receivers at that position. So let's talk about two other options before we move on to GPP options. Brandon Ayuk at 16.6%. TJ, you touching him at 6.3K?
So I love what I've seen from Ayuk over these last 5 games. I mean, he's been very productive so far this year, regardless of who the Niners are throwing out a quarterback, whether it's Mullins, whether it's Garoppolo, whether it's me, whether it's Matt, whether it's Kevin.
Right.
Doesn't really matter. Ayuk has obviously been that go-to, especially with Debo out. He's got a really big price bump. I mean, he went up from 5,400 against Washington. He's now at 6,300, which is, by far his most expensive price tag. It's a really good matchup against Dallas. So I definitely don't hate it. The ownership's pretty crazy high. So if I am playing him, it would be in cash. If I'm playing like a tournament, I might be thinking about going to a guy like Kendrick Bourne over him, who's obviously been the second option, hasn't seen as many targets, but I think he saw 7 his last 2 games. So has been productive, has had the opportunities at a much cheaper price tag. So yeah, if I can get to Ayuk in cash, I definitely don't hate it at 6,300. But for tournaments, definitely a no-go for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Ayuk, Kevin, I know you like Ayuk, and then we mentioned him on the last video. 6.3K, you paying, I guess, technically up for him, and double ups at 16.6% ownership.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very favorable matchup, and he's been weirdly consistent this year. So, I mean, I think it's a good play. He's the very favorable matchup, second worst against opposing wide receivers. A little bit of a pay bump from him, as we've seen him in the 5,500 range. But he's been crazy consistent. Targets are unreal. 16, 9, 14, 10. I mean, those are opportunities. He's scoring 20 almost every week. So, I like him in double ups. But I do think I agree with TJ in tournaments. His upside's a little bit limited.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Let's go ahead and move on to DeAndre Hopkins at 7.9K. I think this is the only pay-up option, really, other than like Tyreek Hill, a little bit lower down the board. But DeAndre Hopkins at 7.9K, 13.7%. You guys know how much I love DeAndre Hopkins. But he has been kind of cold lately. So, TJ, what are your thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins today, specifically against Philly at 7.9K?
So it's a pretty good matchup for him against Roby Coleman. So I definitely like that at 7,900 with that price tag for D-Hop. Philly ranks 22nd in DVOA against the pass as well. It's more dependent on Kyler and how the shoulder's feeling. And like I said, against the Giants, I think he looked pretty healthy, pretty close to 100%. So, and I feel like it was a little evident to his health throwing it to D-Hop, who had 136 yards against the Giants. So I definitely do like D-Hop at 7,900. I'm not going to get to him in cash because I'm going to be paying up at running back, so I can confidently say I will not be rostering him in cash. But if you have the money, like I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think he's just safe. I mean, even at that price tag, DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, 25 point. We talk about cold, but again, you look at his previous 5 games: 28.7, 10.1, 10.5, 19.2, and 25.6. I can definitely live with if I'm playing cash games. So still pretty consistent, in terms of an overall wide receiver. Also, want to say, guys, before we move on, in the Discord chat, I see my notifications popping up right now. I got 10 plus notifications, but nothing in the YouTube chat. So if you guys want to get my attention, go over to the YouTube chat. That's the only thing I'll be monitoring right now in the Discord. Also, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the YouTube chat, and we will get to them at the very end of the live stream. We save a segment about 15 to 20 minutes to answer all your questions. So feel free to ask all of your questions. We will get to them. I do promise I'm not ignoring you. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about GPP options for the wide receiver position. TJ, TJ, I'll go ahead and pitch it to you. If you're looking at stacking or if you're looking at individual wide receivers, which ones are flying under the radar right now for you?
So in terms of stacking, I just want to check one thing real quick where's T.Y. Hilton?
T.Y. Hilton's, he's actually kind of up there at 12.9% right now.
Okay. Well, I really do like T.Y. and what I've seen from him as of late. I'm sure everybody does with Phillip Rivers. I feel like the connection's been there. He actually compared himself to Steph Curry recently and said
That's
he's
a weird comparison.
in the zone.
That's such a weird comparison.
So, yeah, it is really weird. But over the last 3 games, he's caught 17 to 23 targets, 277 yards, and 4 touchdowns. It's pretty obvious that him and Phillip Rivers gotten that timing down. He's been taking chances down the field to T.Y., and T.Y. has been taking advantage of that. So I definitely wouldn't hate a Phillip Rivers T.Y. stack. It's something that I've done, recently in terms of tournaments. So I do like that kind of stack. Another guy I'm looking at, Matt, that I just need to check the ownership.
I can answer it for you. I'm looking at all of them.
I'm looking at it now too. Allen Robinson. Where are we seeing Allen Robinson? Of course, I don't have this sorted.
At 12.3%.
All right, so I guess my GPPs just suck because I'm just giving.
Well, they're good. They're good small tournament plays. So
I'm trash. No. Okay. Well, I do like Allen Robinson.
For what it's worth, TJ, real quick, they're considered good chalk, at least according to our leverage sheet. So they have high upside.
Right. So I like what I've seen with Allen Robinson with Mitch Trubisky back under center. He's racked up 27, 14, and 30 DraftKings points, and where he had 14. That was against the Bears where they just absolutely let off that was against the Vikings where they just let off the gas. Excuse me. So I like what I've seen from him. They're 3-point dogs, should be somewhat competitive. And if Mitch can continue to play the way he has been, which has actually been pretty good, Allen Robinson at 7,400 is definitely somebody that I'm targeting.
Yeah, I completely agree with those options. So again, more towards the small tournament plays. They're great direct. They're absolutely great direct pivots. And like I said, and if you're not playing Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith, and at least in tournaments, you're getting contrarian enough. So you can play any one of those mid-range options at the wide receiver position. Kevin, if you're looking for stacks or individual wide receiver plays, where are you looking for GPPs?
I think there's some good. There's always going to be good pay down options for wide receiver. There just always is. We're looking at Brandon Cooks at some of the lowest ownership we've seen him against, but he's also more expensive than he has been. It's funny, his target share has actually gone down with all the injuries. His target share has gone down, which is weird. I mean, now that he's one of the only guys on the field with no Fuller and his target share has gone down. So I don't actually like him that much against the Colts, but I just think it's interesting that he is carrying the least ownership we've seen him. Usually we see him in the top 5 like every single week because of his price and just being much potential with a great quarterback, and he's pretty good himself. But I like a lot of the pay up options. I think there's good pivots here. I think Calvin Ridley is a good pivot off of D-Hop, for that around that pricing. He's great, man. He's really, really good. He passes the eye test, passes the target test, deadly, in the slot, deadly deep,
passes
deadly
the bird test.
Passes the bird test. The bird won't quit. Falcon won't quit. So I definitely think he's awesome. And then I don't know if you want to mention it, Matt, but I know I'm looking at receiver number 40 on our list there, all the way down.
Is that based on rankings?
That's based on ownership.
You just gotta throw this over to Matt. Matt, who do you got?
Hold on.
I don't know.
He's $8,600.
Oh, DK Metcalf. Yeah. I'm pulling.
Off him now, huh?
I don't know, because I'm not a believer in Russell Wilson lately. I love Russell Wilson, man. I just do. But
he's going to be under duress big time today.
Yeah, right now I'm looking at better. I'm looking at higher upside wide receivers. I do like DK Metcalf.
See you guys in a Millie Maker.
Well, there you go. You just called the Millie Maker lineup with DK Metcalf in it. Yeah. No, I mean, you always love DK Metcalf. You know him as an individual is great. That matchup's really good. I think the Washington football team's a little underrated, dare I say. I know they still suck compared to the rest of the league.
Make sure to swing through and pick you guys up in my new Lambo when I'm on my way. Okay.
All right, just remember about this company at some point. All right, so
I'll forget all about you.
Okay. And then I want to give my GPP options. Right now, everybody is off the Rams wide receivers against the worst team in the NFL right now. I love them at their ownership. Right now, Cooper Kupp's at 7.8%. Robert Woods is at 10.4%. So decently high, but they're still lower than everybody we've mentioned so far. I like all of the wide receivers from the Tampa Bay Bucks against Atlanta. Antonio Brown's at 4.2%. We have Mike Evans at 4.9%. So you're grabbing sub 5% ownership for guys that could potentially be in the highest scoring game on the slate at 49 over under right now is what it's at. So I do like that matchup as well. And then one more guy I want to talk about. Yes, DK Metcalf is up there, by the way. Tyler Lockett's up there. Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown has sucked all season long, but he's at 3.1% ownership. And if you want to pair him with Lamar Jackson, double up on that potential. I definitely like him as an option just because everybody's off of him. It's the highest spread right now. The Ravens are actually projected to score the most on the slate. So if you want some, ownership, really low ownership, high over under, I think that's a great place to start. So let's go ahead and talk about Travis Kelce. Not even the tight end position. We're going to talk about Travis Kelce at 14.9%. Let's go ahead and pitch this over to TJ. 14.9% Travis Kelce. Yes or no? $8,000. Okay.
Yes, if I can, of course, definitely. Been one of the most consistent DFS players all year. Obviously, heavily targeted by Patrick Mahomes. Not a good matchup, obviously, against the Saints, but I just like the game script and what we could see in a potential shootout against the Saints. So yeah, if I have the money to get to him, I'd love to do it. Like I said, I'll be paying up at running back, so I don't know if I'll have the funds to get him, but if I can, 100%.
Kevin, yes or no? Travis Kelce.
Always yes.
Yes.
That's it. Just always.
Okay? So this actually just got put on our live feed. Zeke is inactive today, so that just changed.
Just saw that. Yep.
That just changed a lot actually,
Good.
based on the running back chalk. So hopefully
What
the ownership.
is Pollard at?
Well, it's probably not going to be updated, but I can go ahead and check. Pollard's
5,200.
Yeah, 0.4%.
So
he's going to be up there. He's going to be up there with Leonard
100%.
Fournette probably. Yeah. So
100%.
do you guys want to talk about that real quick? Even though they're going against San Francisco, do you think he's going to be good chalk?
I do, yeah. I mean, we've seen Pollard over the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's been a 2-to-1 snap count. So Zeke's been playing about 60 to 63% of offensive snaps. Pollard's actually been sneakily playing 35 to 37% of offensive snaps. So I would assume he would obviously be the bell cow. Probably see, I'd say, 70 to 80% of offensive snaps. Tough matchup against the Niners, but if he's going to be heavily involved in the offense, sign me up at 5,200. I would much rather go to Pollard over Leonard Fournette.
Okay. I think I can agree with that. Kevin,
That's
you
just
agree
my
with
stance.
that?
I don't. Maybe much.
You're paying up at the running back position this week. I can
No,
already feel it.
it's not that. It's not
Okay.
that. It's just I'm wondering if I'd want him over Leonard Fournette just for the pricing. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking of TJ State. I don't disagree. I think he's a better. I don't know.
I don't trust Fournette. I mean, it's a guy that was a healthy scratch last
He was
week.
a healthy scratch. That's a great point.
Yeah. So what can we?
I don't trust
It's not
that
like
offense.
we can. Right. Yeah. No, I get that. But
but that's
no, for sure. Yeah. But what I'm thinking with Fournette is he was a healthy scratch. What can we honestly peg Leonard Fournette offensively today in a game where we could see Brady throw 35 to 40 times? Yeah, some dump offs to Fournette for sure. But do we think he's going to get 15 carries? Especially if they're playing from behind.
No.
So
yeah.
I just don't.
Probably
I
not.
don't trust Fournette because I feel like a lot of people are seeing the price tag and the ownership is being bumped because he is starting and
maybe take both and then throw a stud wide receiver and a stud running back in.
Yeah.
Running back at flex. Stud
yeah,
wide
you could do
receiver
that for
at
sure.
one. I do that.
Maybe
Well,
you could get, and if you want to go both, maybe you could pay up for Kelce and tight
Yeah,
end position.
you know what? Okay.
And then include
Let's go.
DK Metcalf in there.
Wheels are turning.
Because it's fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Well,
like that.
that Lambo, I can't wait to see it. So Leonard Fournette at 22% ownership, he actually went up. We're also forgetting about LaShawn McCoy. So I mean, he could be involved in the offense as well. $4,000. So
fun.
yeah, I mean, you guys know I'm a GPP
a
player,
chance
so
with
I'm
him.
not gonna
Yeah.
have too much. I'm not gonna have too much of either
Wait,
one of
you
these
play
guys.
GPPs?
Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's move back over to the tight end
only play
position here.
double ups.
Travis Kelce at 15.3%. You both said yes. I want to say the statement before we move on to GPP options. Travis Kelce, if you play him, period. I said this in the Discord chat. Right now, he is still showing as one of the best leverage spots on the entire slate. Are you kidding me? Why is this guy only 15.3%? His ownership every single week should be creeping above 30+%, at least in GPPs. This guy performs consistently. His ownership is not consistent. It's still down here at 15.3%. He is a wide receiver. Just think of him. You guys said this many times. A wide receiver at 8K. And he's still producing like he should be 10+ K. He really does. So I don't understand the ownership. I get that people want to save salary and the tight end spot, but that's not the position to be doing this when Travis Kelce's on the slate, period. If you play Travis Kelce, you have leverage off the spot, even in double ups. So I just love Travis Kelce. I think he's that good of a play. Next on the list here is going to be Mark Andrews, actually showing relatively high ownership, rivaling that of Travis Kelce, 14.8% ownership. What are your thoughts on Mark Andrews? Sorry, TJ.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm ignoring you real quick.
Okay.
I was seeing if I'm in semis in both my leagues. I was seeing if Pollard was out there, but clearly he's not.
Okay.
So I just figured I would take a chance. But what were you saying, Matt? I think you were talking about Mark Andrews.
I was talking about Mark Andrews being another cash option. Are you even looking at him at 5.5K?
Yeah, I am. I don't hate it. Obviously, it's a fantastic matchup against Jacksonville, who ranked 31st in DVOA against the pass. Again, my main objective is to try and get up to Travis Kelce, even at 8K. But if I need to spend down, I think we talked about this on the final look video. Like, I wouldn't mind going to Mark Andrews at 5,500. The only thing that I was a little skeptical about is that they were able to decimate Cleveland and basically run the football 32 times. Lamar only had 17 pass attempts. It is nice to see that 6 of those targets did go to Mark Andrews, but a lot of them came on that final drive where they were able to have that Justin Tucker field goal. I think he had 3 of his receptions on that final drive. So he was basically a no-show. But besides that, his last couple games, he has been pretty consistent. 16 in total targets against Tennessee and the Patriots combined. So yeah, I think he's kind of returning to form. He's definitely more of a boom or a bust, I would say.
Yeah.
So, if you aren't looking to spend up, I think there are some pretty cheap plays that you can go to. But again, Travis Kelce is my main target. And if I don't have the money, I don't hate on landing on Andrews at 5,500.
Do you want to go ahead and talk about those low options while you're talking about it?
Yeah. So the guy that I'm looking at, the guy that I'm looking at is Cole Kmet at 3K. I like what I've seen from him. Even with Jimmy Graham being in there over the last couple games with Trubisky at the helm. Over his last 2 games, he's got 14 targets, 9 receptions, and a touchdown. So I just think the opportunities are there. He's a really good red zone target. He's a big kid. So going up against Minnesota, obviously a pretty good secondary. They rank 12th in DVOA against opposing tight ends. So position that they've been able to somewhat lock down so far this year. But at 3K, I mean, you virtually need him, Matt? 9 points for him to smash value technically. So, if he can find the end zone, he can easily get that. So I do like Cole at 3K. I think he's a really good option. And another guy I'm kind of looking at would probably be Jared Cook at 3,400. I think with Michael Thomas out, that opens up some red zone targets for a guy like Jared Cook that we've seen find the end zone so far this year. He has 6 total touchdowns. And again, if he can find the end zone, just every single game where he's found the end zone, he's gotten 10 plus Draftkings points. So if he can do that for you today, that smashes his value at 3,400. So I think those are 2 pretty good targets that you can look at for tight end.
All right. I think that's a pretty good breakdown. Kevin, are you going to include any more GPP options at the tight end position? By the way, Travis Kelce is still a GPP option.
No, those are my 2.
Okay.
Kmet, Cook.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. So Travis Kelce, 15.3%. I don't want to talk about anything else because our leverage sheet disagrees with anything I would say. So right now it's just Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews for me, and maybe Kmet if you're trying to save salary at that position. Going over to last but not least the defense, I believe this has shifted since I sent you guys the last leverage sheet update. The Seahawks are at 3.1K, 13.3%, the highest owned on the slate, going against Washington. Do you guys agree with that, Kevin? Do you agree with the Seahawks being chalk at 13.3%?
I mean, no.
Okay.
No, it's just the defense is just abysmal. I get it's a a favorable matchup, but no, I don't.
So if you're going to be paying down or up, you're going to probably be paying up.
PP?
Yeah, PP.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams D is just, staring me in the face. I know it's definitely a pay up option, but we like to target the Jets. I mean, and Rams D is not just a defense playing the Jets; it's a damn good defense in general. So I definitely would probably pay up, especially where we have some pay down options at running back. You might be able to do that in cash games.
Yeah, I'm going to be paying up at defense this week. The Rams, we talked about this on the final look video against the Jets, an absolute smash spot, 4.5K. I don't care if I'm paying up for that. That's guaranteeing me at least 10 plus points. I think so. They have to score a touchdown. I feel like the Rams have a better chance at scoring a touchdown for their defense than the Jets do on offense.
Exactly true. Like I said, though, hey, Sam Darnold over 11.5.
Yeah,
here first.
He's going to be throwing it all day long.
We watch that game close on the Patriots.
Why would you want to watch the Patriots game?
Valid point. I'd
Hey,
rather watch Sam
now you
Darnold
know
at
what
this
it's like to
point.
be a Jags fan. All right, TJ, where are you paying?
No, that's
For
clearly not
defense.
true. Yeah, no,
Okay.
I'd love to pay up for the Rams at 4,500. Absolute smash ball, like you said. They've had 10 DraftKings points in 4 of their last 5 outings, including shutting down the New England Patriots last week to 3 total points. That juggernaut of an offense, if they can do that to the Patriots, they can do that to anybody else in the league. So definitely like the Rams, especially against the lowly Jets. The Jets total, their team total over under right now is at like 14 or something absurd like that. So
Yeah, it's pretty low.
yeah, definitely would love to pay up for them. So yeah, that's where I want to go. That's plain and simple.
It's at a 13.75 right now.
Okay,
That's
so even
insane.
worse.
Okay.
Also, real quick, Jameis Winston just got put onto COVID-19 list. So in case you were thinking about starting Jameis
Damn.
Winston today over Drew Brees,
Yes.
just be wary of that.
Oh,
Imagine if we get news that Taysom Hill and Drew Brees both get thrown on there too, and we have that same dilemma that the Broncos had where they had to start, what was it, Hamler?
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Side-
it wasn't Hamler, was it? No, I forget.
No,
his
it
name.
was some guy that no one's ever heard of.
It
And
was
you
the
know,
practice
he's like,
squad wide
you know what?
receiver.
Yeah,
I'm not going to look it up. I don't care enough.
I-
But
wasn't as
yeah.
good as Hamler.
I got a quick statement. So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but the whole Mariota thing, I think this was Monday Night Football, where Derek Carr went down with an injury and Mariota stepped right in. It was like the first quarter. One person won the Millie Maker by having Mariota in
Yeah,
the
I saw
captain
that.
spot. He was literally like one of the only guys that was 0.1% owned in the captain spot. So now this week, apparently there's an inflation in backup quarterback ownership. But
Dude, Mariota made like $1 million in incentives on Monday night or something absurd like that.
Yeah, he made $1 million in that game. I saw that.
Yeah.
just
that's
coming in.
insane.
But
Well, good for him.
Coming in, playing like 60% of the snaps or something, and just being productive throughout it. Yeah, I forget what the incentives were, but his contract was late with him. Yeah, but that's absolutely crazy, Matt. I did see that
Yeah.
someone had him in the captain spot.
And they ended up
Insane.
winning by like 10 points too. It was like a clear cut first place finish. So he won $1 million.
Yeah, it's wild.
So hey, it just goes to show you guys there's nothing too contrarian. If you guys want to play a backup quarterback, feel free to do it.
But
We
if
could
you
all be
are,
wrong.
don't play Jameis Winston.
Okay.
He is on COVID list.
Yeah, don't do that.
by
All
the way,
right.
Carson Wentz wants out of Philly. I just saw that if he can't be a backup. So Patriots?
Do you guys want to move on to questions now?
Okay. Yeah.
Guys, can I just say one thing real quick? Pollard was a free agent in one of my leagues, and someone picked him up 3 minutes before I looked. So I'm pretty sad about
So you're
that. I
pretty
actually
sad?
had a chance to grab him.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty tough that no one had him, but whatever. Move past it.
All right, let's go ahead and do the quick rapid fire session. TJ,
Oh wait,
if you don't
I wanted
mind,
to touch
what's up?
base on one
Defense?
defense.
Sure.
A cheap defense. Yeah.
Jaguars.
Not the Jaguars. I kind of wouldn't mind taking a chance on the Washington football team at 2,600. I
Yeah.
think they are going to be all over Russell Wilson. I think they're going to be in his face with Chase Young. What, Kev?
He's playing
like
DK
that?
Metcalf.
My Lambo. when
Oh, you're playing
dropped.
Metcalf? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I honestly think this game's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be really defensive heavy. I've actually been thinking about benching Russ Wilson in my fantasy league. Honestly, I've really been thinking about it. So hopefully that I'm saying this on stream, he absolutely snaps and just eviscerates the Washington football team front seven or defense as a whole. But I think this front seven's good, and I don't think that O-line can hang with them. So I think this could be like a 5-6 sack game for the Washington football team. So
Wow,
2,600, I'm going to take some chances with them.
We know
That is my
TJ
bold
always
prediction.
had. Yeah, well, he
My bold
always had a
prediction
bold
is
prediction.
6 sacks for the Washington football team.
All
You know
right.
what? He hits a lot of the time. So
He does. He hits a good amount of times. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the questions. I don't see any Discord questions, guys. Come on. I know you Discord guys are watching, so ask in the YouTube chat. I will wait for them to come in. TJ, if you wouldn't mind starting at the top.
Hey, you. Yes, definitely rostering Matt at defense today. I would not advise that. I'd rather go to Kevin, who is $400 more expensive, and that makes sense because Kevin's better than Matt.
Okay.
When I win 50K today, I'm going to send y'all a hefty donation. Love that, Brian. Thank you, man. Guys,
Thanks, bro.
2 guys we didn't talk about at the running back position.
Well, Connor is on the slate.
I was going to say James Conner isn't on the slate.
I
That's what
double
was
checked to
literally
make sure I
gonna
wasn't
look.
going crazy.
Okay. Any love for Chris Carson? I think it's a tough matchup.
Yeah,
Again,
I
I think
don't-
that
I actually-
Washington front seven is
usually
nasty.
on him. I'm a little off him.
I am
because
off
of
of
that
him this
matchup.
week. Yeah.
It's very tough. Chase Young is just that guy's an absolute animal. So
Yeah, he
He's
is.
a freak. Rookie of the
It's-
year. Just kidding. But maybe.
yeah. Moving on. What else do we have here?
Does
Does
Jared
Jared
Cook
Cook become
become
relevant again with Breeze back? I think so. Yeah, and with Michael
who?
Thomas out for sure.
Yeah.
Jared Cook.
Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been relevant the past
Um,
2 weeks, too. So he scored 11.8, 12.7 points. It hasn't been that bad.
Keelan Cole or Kendrick Bourne? I'm going Kendrick Bourne. I like Kendrick Bourne in terms.
I agree with that. Don't roster a Jaguars wide receiver and expect to have success. It's boom or bust every single time.
Minshew's playing though, right?
Guys, just
What's that?
Minshew?
Oh yeah, Minshew is playing. That's a great point, but I feel like that benefits Chark more than anybody. He's not going to be. He knows who he's going to be throwing to this game.
How many picks is Minshew going to throw this week? Because I do like the Ravens defense against a turnover.
Not as much as when Glenn's playing. I would say 1 to 2 max.
Okay. Any thoughts on Jalen Hurts? I feel like we touched base on him. Anybody want to elaborate on the 5,900 play in Jalen Hurts?
If you're going to be playing contrarian for Jalen Hurts, it's going to be this week, $5,900. Grab him while you can, because what we've seen the very first week against a very good defense, this guy should be a pretty good starting quarterback going forward. I mean, that's a very good defense. He went right in and did very, very well. So, like I said, the running upside, I think Kevin talked about it. I think this offense is going to speed up a little bit. I do like him. I think he's a great play. If you're going to be spending down at the quarterback position, I think that's a great spot to be paying down. 4.
Okay. We have where am I? Here I am. Bowden Jr. chalk now if Parker, Grant, and tight end out. So I see Parker's out. I see Gesicki is out as well. Yeah, dude, Bowden's nasty. Jakeem Grant is out too. Yeah, I mean, I don't like that. I don't like that game at all in terms of Miami and the Patriots. But we saw Lynn Bowden last week. Actually have the opportunity. Right. He had 7 catches for 82 yards. So they were using him out of the backfield. He's technically a running back, wide receiver flex. I know he's listed as a running back, but they do use him more out of the backfield and lining up in the slot. So I definitely do like Lynn Bowden if he's going to be cheap. What is he? Is he 3,600? Is that what we have Lynn Bowden at?
Yeah, 3,600. Yeah.
And is he just listed as a wide receiver? Okay.
So
yes. Okay. Yep. So yeah, 3,600. Like, I don't hate it if you're going to be playing tournaments. I wouldn't be doing it in cash. Again, I don't like that game at all. Like, I want to stay away from that Miami and Patriots game.
If you're going cheap wide receivers, I feel like we already know where to go. At least for cash, it's going to be the Saints. I feel more confident in that picture than I do. I just trust Drew Brees a little bit more in that offense.
Yeah. I really don't hate Bowden though at 3,600. I think that's a pretty sneaky play.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what that ownership comes in at around 12:30. Favorite paydown options at wide receiver with great leverage. I mean, we talked about it. It's Traquan Smith. It's Emmanuel Sanders.
I think he means like not those wide receivers. So like for leverage.
Oh,
essentially,
with
with leverage
value.
Yeah.
I understand that now. Reading is tough for me. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of like Michael Gallup at 3,500. Talked about him in the final look. Yep. Again, I'm glad that he did bring Lynn Bowden. I thought Parker was going to go today, and I knew Gesicki was questionable. But to see all those guys out, I definitely don't hate him at 3,600. So I think that's where I would go, honestly.
Always
target as much as I feel like we usually see too. So
a good.
Say that again, Kev?
So go ahead.
I feel like there's not as many punts at wide receiver as we usually see.
No, there isn't. But if you're going to be targeting cheap wide receivers with high upside, you always target the high over unders. We always see in the Millie Maker, it's always some stupid wide receiver in the high over under. So again, Hardman, Sammy Watkins from the Kansas City Chiefs could steal a touchdown or two. If you look over at another high over under with Tennessee, you could. Yeah, if you consider Corey Davis cheap at $5,800, I feel like that's a great option. Another great one. Any one of the Colts wide receivers, and with Houston, which we've already talked about, Brandon Cooks, Kiki Kuti at $5,300. Again, I know it's not as cheap as you guys want, but those are all very good options to target for high upside.
Yeah, I agree with that, Matt. Another guy that isn't in a high over-under, and that's on abysmal team, would be Denzel Mims at 3,500. I mean, Kevin likes the Sam Darnold over 11.5 points. He's got to throw to somebody. It's probably going to go to him or Brashard Perriman, or obviously Jamison Crowder. So I think those are pretty good options, I guess, if you're looking for tournament plays. But I probably wouldn't do it.
We didn't even talk about Russell Gage, I feel like, the entire stream. $4,700, by the way. So
No Julio, yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Does Pollard become a new cash play with Zeke out? I think so, yeah.
He's an option, yes.
Okay. Washington defense is clearly a top 5 in the league. I agree with that, Brian. Zeke is out, yep. Why is the Cardinals defense so chalky? What do we have the Cardinals defense at in terms of ownership right now, Matt?
They were second. So yeah, they're second to Philly. I just feel like there's still uncertainty in that whole picture, and they're so cheap. So that's the only reason for it. It could be a trap. Definitely could be a trap. I'm gonna answer some of these Discord questions real quick.
Yeah.
The slate just got nuts with the Dolphin news. Any cheap wide receivers? We just covered that. How many Saints in cash is too many? I will say 3 is a good amount for cash. You're going to be doing the 2 wide receivers from Traquan Smith and Emmanuel Sanders, and then you're also putting Kamara in there. I feel like that's a great place to start for cash. Do I stick with Dobbins or pivot to Pollard and use the extra $700 to spend up elsewhere? Depends on the contest. But I will say we like Pollard now. I do like Dobbins, but I only like Dobbins in really big GPPs, or if that's the only place you're pivoting to. I only like Dobbins, in one leverage spot because he's so low owned. He's like 3.1%, which is pretty crazy. And does the Pats D come into play with all the Miami injuries and Belichick's success against rookie quarterbacks? That's a great question. What do you guys think about that?
Say it one more time.
Patriots. Do you agree with their defense in playing against a rookie quarterback?
No.
Patriots. You don't like Patriots?
Yeah, I don't want to touch the Patriots.
Well, those are Patriots fans, so okay.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about
No,
it.
they're just so volatile right now. They just if
I'd rather play the Dolphins defense
Okay.
at 3,700 than the Pats defense at 3K.
You've already moved on to NBA season, TJ. I can already tell.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and read some more questions. You can go ahead and continue, TJ.
Okay, let's see. We have Lamar or Mahomes today.
Lamar and cash.
just in general. Interesting. Yeah.
Lamar and cash, Patrick Mahomes and GPP's is my take.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Flex at 5K or under. Let's see here. Flex at 5K.
You guys are definitely
under.
trying to look for some salary savers. I can see that.
Fournette.
Yeah.
I know TJ isn't big on it, but I'll say Fournette.
I mean,
5K.
he'll get the opportunity, Kev. So I just don't know. Yeah, I don't trust it. But like, if he's gonna be starting and get opportunities, then yeah, I mean,
I'd like to think he's better than Shady at this point.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I just don't know how much they're gonna like. I could see Brady just airing it out all day today. Like that's kind of where my mindset is. I could also see Fournette get 20 carries. No, I can't. He's trash. I do like Russell Gage at 4,700. I think that's a pretty good play, especially with no Julio. We saw him get involved in the offense against the Chargers last week. He had 7 targets. He had a throwing touchdown, which was nice. So if you started him, good for you. But yeah, I definitely don't mind him at a
Russell
sub 5K.
Gage, 4,700. We just talked about him. Still like him.
I like that. I think Russell Gage. The one thing I was going to say too about Fournette is I feel like Bruce Arians hates him. I feel like he's like, okay, you're not.
Most people do.
Yeah, most people do. But the fact is, they need to win this game. I mean, these are their playoff, position is contending on how they do right now. And as much as he hates them, that is the best guy he has. Like Fournette is the best guy he has.
Yeah. All right. I think we're done with that question.
3 to 5 running backs absolutely hit pay dirt. Also 4 wide receivers to go over 60 yards. All right, we're gonna move past that one. Pollard or Mostert? I'm on Pollard.
I'm on Pollard too. I do like Pollard in that starting spot.
Yeah, probably. I
like
Mostert
too. I mean,
I don't look at Mostert too much. I'll be
I
honest.
think with Mostert, you have Jeff Wilson still looming, which is obviously hurt his production.
Yeah.
So when you have Pollard just being the clear bell cow today, I'll take Pollard.
Yeah, if you want
pick
guarantee
2.
volume. Yeah, good.
Yes. Pick 2: Clyde, Mostert, and Bowden. Clyde's been so frustrating this year, especially since I got Lev.
Those are completely different price tags, aren't they?
Yeah, I think
Clyde's
that's more of a fantasy football than it is a DFS question would be my guess.
I'll say CEH then. I think he's gonna have
Yeah, I'd probably say Clyde, and I really do like Bowden. I do like Bowden today.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I kind of. They have nobody now. No Gesicki, no Parker, no Grant. That's huge. It's
true. As much as I hate the Patriots, I mean, it's just I don't know. I think we still have a decent secondary. I'm a little scared of Bowden for that, but he is ridiculously cheap.
We do have a decent secondary. That's definitely for certain. It's the only thing that we can really hang our heads on here. No Gaskins either, and Preston Wilson too on IR. So they are just decimated.
There's nobody. Yeah.
Yep. Move past it. Do you like any Bowden Jr. with Parker out? Yeah, Trubisky or Breeze?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I want to say Trubisky. I don't know why, but my brain's telling me Trubisky. I don't.
Trubisky too. I
Say it
think
again.
I like Trubisky.
Is it cash or GPP? Because I think Drew Brees has such a limited ceiling, but he's consistently hovering around that 19-20 mark all year long. So
yeah, as weird as this is to say, I think Trubisky has a good floor at this point.
Yeah, So the thing is with Breeze and the injury, I think people were like, is he 100%? Is he not? I feel like if he wasn't 100%, they would have just kept rolling out Taysom Hill.
Sure.
Like they wouldn't have used
Plenty
him.
of
So
success with him.
I'm assuming he's definitely good to go today. It's obviously a higher over under. It's 7 points more than that Bears and Minnesota game, but I just really like what I've seen from Trubisky as of late. And you know, that's a tough one because I do like Breeze in tournaments, but I'm gonna lean Trubisky. I can't believe I said that. Sony Michel, do we like Wilson Jr. or so? I don't like Sony Michel. I know that Harris is out, but I just don't. He's just, I mean,
football.
Yeah,
Tough
he's
defense.
just waste of a first round pick. 4,300, like sure, take a chance on him in tournaments, I guess. He had a really good game against the Raiders where he ran for 100 plus yards, but just haven't seen it enough out of him with or without Damian Harris. I'd rather go Jeff Wilson, a guy that we know has gotten carries, even with Mostert there. He's had 10 plus carries in 3 of his last 4 games, been somewhat productive with him as well. So even though Sony Michel is going to be that bell cow with Damian Harris out, there's still James White, even with Rex Burkhead out. JJ Taylor too could see some carries today. So I'm off Sony Michel.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's cheap. If you want to play him in tournaments, take a chance on him for sure. But I think I'd rather go Wilson. Bad chalk for Arizona D, not me. People are really on Arizona D. Okay. So a lot of people thinking that the Cardinals could be bad chalk. Okay. Pollard over Forgetter. I think Fournette and Cash, or is for who DJS is struggling with typing. Maybe some mimosas for breakfast for my guy DJS. So Pollard over Fournette and Cash, or is Fournette ownership too high to fade in Cash? I would rather go Pollard over Fournette, and I'll have whatever you're drinking. That's for sure.
It's 12 for the
what's up, Kev?
12:02.
Yeah, 12:02. You can start drinking. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? Akers or Taylor? I like Akers.
I like them both.
Yeah, I think they're both good plays.
I think,
but I'd go Akers.
I think Jonathan Taylor's more contrarian if you're looking for a bigger GPP option.
I don't have a stance. I feel like it's 50-50.
It is for me too.
Wow, we actually got another Sony Michel or Jeff Wilson Jr. from somebody else in the chat.
Maybe
again, a
different person, huh? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, different person too. Yeah, I understand the Sony Michel questions with Damian Harris, but like I just don't trust him.
At least he will have more of a expanded role where you got think Jeff
for
Wilson
sure
carries more. So I will
agree with that, Kev. Running Lamar, Pollard, Jeff Wilson, AJ Brown, Ayuk, Bowden, Kelsey, Sony Michel. Thoughts, please.
Kind of some studs and duds. I mean,
you get some Sony Michel. I mean, huge question mark. I do like the Bowden play. We talked about Ayuk. We talked about AJ Brown. Jeff Wilson going to see the ball. Pollard, obviously, the bell cow now with Zeke out. I don't hate it. I just Sony Michel is just someone that's up in the air for me. If the uptick's there, I definitely don't hate it, but I don't know. I don't know with Sony Michel, man.
I can tell you, hold on, real quick. Right now, based on all your questions, you guys are going stud or duds. If you guys want to get contrarian, 100%. You better go middle of the road this slate because there's so many good middle of the road options. I mean, even just looking at quarterback, like nobody's touching Jared Goff, nobody's talking about Tom Brady, nobody's talking about Kirk Cousins. They could easily break the slate. Just saying today. We talked about Jonathan Taylor, we talked about Montgomery, all middle of the road players that could easily break the slate. If you guys want to get contrarian, play Travis Kelce first of all, and then play some middle of the road running backs and wide receivers.
Ray saying that Miami has no weapons today, uptick for New England D. I kind of agree with him. In an already low over under. Yeah, they're completely decimated.
The Patriots this year and how they've been playing. It's a good point. There's really, I mean, it's already an offense that isn't like booming, I would say, in the Dolphins, and they rely on their defense more. This could be a very boring like 7-3 game or something. Like it really could be.
Yeah. Yeah, just to reiterate for you guys, no Devontae Parker, no Gaskins, no Gesicki, no Preston Williams, no Jakeem Grant.
Crazy.
They have Albert Wilson. I don't even know if Albert Wilson's played this year.
I feel like we're covering NBA.
They have Mac Hollins and they have Bowden. That's it, really.
Mac Hollins.
Isaiah Ford, I guess, could see some opportunities today. Probably not. Healthy scratch the last couple of weeks. So I don't know. Let's move on past Miami. I think we're getting a little stuck on Winston on COVID list. Yes, thank you, Trevor. Yeah, we've already advised don't play Jameis Winston today. Fournette and Michelle, same lineup. Oh, guys, Fournette and Michelle.
That just screams like the biggest bust potential in the world.
Depends who you're getting on the other side. I mean, if it means you can get some absolute wagon wide receivers and guarantee your cash line, then that's one thing. But not in GPPs. I wouldn't take 2 risks like that.
And I still love Tyreek Hill this week. $8,800 if you want to pay for him.
Ooh, this is a pretty good one. Pollard or Mark Andrews in flex? I'd go Pollard.
I don't know. I disagree with you guys.
Take a running back or tight end. It's
yeah, but Mark Andrews is literally the only guy that Lamar Jackson even considers throwing to ever.
Well, it's Mark Andrews and it's the toilet. So, Connor or Carson again, guys. James Conner is not on the main slate. So if you're talking about fantasy football,
I'm looking at another Connor here on there. Nope.
It's James Conner. That's it. I'd go with Sony Michel for Connor and Carson. No, that's it for questions.
Okay. All right. I also have to put up our leverage sheet, so this is perfect timing. Guys, the party starts Tuesday. We will be covering everything NBA, including our live streams, our videos. Kevin's getting involved with some prize pick videos, I know, so we have a lot planned, and it's going to be very, very busy. Cannot wait. I know it's around the holidays, so I won't be available all week long, but we will be getting out as much content as possible, and then throughout the entire NBA season. So hopefully you guys join us for that long ride. This is probably one of our best DFS sports out there. Also include, on top of NFL, on top of all the esports that we cover, MLB. So feel free to join the party Tuesday. It does start then, so show up to that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the live stream, and with all that being saad, have a great rest of your okay. Have a great rest of your
Let's
weekend.
cash.
And got it. All right, switching.